The Quirk Creek Field Safety Orientation. This field safety orientation is intended to familiarize you with some of the more important aspects of working at our field locations. You should have in front of you a copy of the Safety 2000 booklet and a short exam for you to fill out as this safety orientation proceeds. Once your orientation has been completed, you will receive a card to show that you have completed the exam successfully. The Safety 2000 booklet is yours to keep as a reference. Introduction. The Quirk Creek Gas Plant receives sour gas by pipelines from production wells and facilities at various field locations outside of the plant. There are also pipelines leaving the plants with sales gas and NGL liquids that have above-ground facilities that are operated by Esso. Many of these locations at Quirk Creek are very remote and up to 50 kilometers from the plant, often on private lease roads. There are numerous strict safety and environmental standards that we follow carefully for the protection of everyone in the area. Since you will be working in one of these field locations, we would like you to understand how these affect you and what is expected of you while on our sites. Traveling to field locations. Travel to and from our field locations requires driving on public highways and private lease roads, which can be pavement or loose gravel. The road conditions can be quite varied and changeable due to weather. There are a number of expectations that are required to do this safely, including the following: obey all posted speed limits, do not use cellular phones or two-way radios while traveling, vehicles must conform to the Esso equipment standards, which can range from having fire extinguishers, wheel chocks, backup alarms, and other safety equipment as required. All diesel engines required in restricted areas must have an approved positive air shutoff. Proper placards and company signage should be present. Loads must be secured properly. Boomer-type fastening devices are not permitted. Parking at lease sites must conform to minimum space requirements. Drive-through parking is preferred, but where it is not, back-in parking is required. Backing up must be avoided whenever possible, and spotters must be used with larger equipment and when areas are congested. To ensure that vehicles are not involved in maneuvering incidents, all drivers are expected to maintain a 1-meter buffer zone around their vehicle, and if that is not possible, use a signaler to direct the vehicle movement. If the 1-meter buffer zone is not possible, you must report it to your supervisor to ensure the risks are addressed. Proper tires and chains must be used in the winter as needed. Remote starters are not to be used in restricted areas, and vehicles must not be left idling and unattended in restricted areas. Once you arrive at a field location. Before entering any field location for work, there are a few things you should know to do the job safely. Your Esso contact will discuss the work with you and complete a safe work agreement. A pre-job hazard assessment will also be required along with a tailgate meeting. The safe work agreement will go over the job and aspects of safety that must be followed, including the PPE, or personal protective equipment, you must have and use while on our sites. These will include as a minimum the following: fire retardant coveralls and outerwear. Hoodies must also be a fire retardant material. Hard hat. Approved safety footwear. Safety glasses. Gloves appropriate to the job. Hearing protection. Double hearing protection where posted. personal H2S monitor, radio and/or vehicle monitoring system. Other personal protective equipment may also be necessary depending on the job, and this equipment will be indicated on your permit. Hazards to be aware of at field locations. Any hazards that may be present will be identified on your permit and can include such things as hydrogen sulfide gas, high-pressure pipelines, high temperatures from gas-fired heaters, unstable or uneven walking areas, chemicals such as methanol and corrosion inhibitors, noise from pumps and heaters, pinch points, mouse droppings, hantavirus concerns, working at heights, power lines. Many of the sites will have gas alarms and warning lights to indicate possible H2S leaks. Any locations that have alarms can only be entered by the Imperial Oil Resources personnel using proper emergency response procedures. If an alarm goes off on site, you must evacuate to a safe area upwind of the facility and take your instructions from an SO contact. The plant control room tracks the manpower at all field locations using identification cards on the tracking board in the control room. At the end of your work, your permit must be returned to the Imperial Oil Resources contact, and the control must be notified that you are no longer at the work site. Policies and procedures. There are many proven procedures and policies that must be followed while on our sites. These come from government and industry regulations and are intended to make your job as safe as possible. You must follow any of these that are identified on your Safe Work Agreement and Hazard Assessment. There are forms for your use to document any near misses, hazard IDs, or incidents. Any environmental spills or incidents also need to be reported immediately and recorded on the appropriate forms. Your work will be inspected by the Imperial Oil Resources contact, and job observations may be done to help ensure that the work can be done as safely as possible. If your job conditions change, your Safe Work Agreement will need to be modified, or an additional agreement may be required. Your Safety 2000 booklet has a lot of information concerning many of the jobs that might be done on our sites, and there are other codes of practice and procedures available for such jobs as confined spaces, hydrate removal, digging, and ground disturbance, as well as for emergency response. When your job has been completed, all facilities should be secured and all lease gates locked appropriately. Your copy of the permit must be returned to your Imperial Oil Resources contact and the control room notified that you are finished. Zero tolerance for non-compliance. Quirk Creek has a zero tolerance for non-compliance of the safe work expectations as outlined in this orientation. Using the Safe Work Agreements and other safety tools, you will be expected to ensure a safe working environment at all times. Quirk Creek uses a loss prevention system to enhance our safety by using a variety of tools that you are encouraged to take part in too. The system uses components such as Stop and Think Process, Job Safety Analysis Tool, JSA, Loss Prevention Observations, LPO, Near Miss and Hazard Reporting, Incident Investigations. All incidents and spills should be reported immediately, and there are forms to be used to record the details as well. Conclusion. Thank you for your attention, and please work safely at our field locations.